Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the second week, the last day of the second week. My goodness me, I've not had enough coffee. The Friday of the second week of Devtoberfest. Friday means it's front end user interface day, and we've got some awesome sessions lined up for you all today. And also Devtoberfest gaming night is today as well. So check out, in fact, I'm just about to press enter on the chat here. The URL is in the chat for all the events, the calendar on SAP Community Platform, so have a look at those. But basically today we're going to kick off with an absolute bang. We've got Naidenov. Thank you, Naiden, for joining us. Naiden is going to be talking to us about the TypeScript support for UI5 Web Components. So Naiden, welcome. Thank you for this session in advance. By the way, we've decided that we'll keep questions until the end, so please feel free to ask questions at any time in the chat, and I'll take care of those and I'll relay them to Naiden once he's finished his session. So without further ado, Naiden, over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, and also welcome to everyone. So my name is Naiden, and I'm a JavaScript developer for the last 5 years at SAP. So I'm going to share my screen so we can start with the session. Just a second. Okay, focus on my screen now. Okay, so I'm going to present you how we enable TypeScript support and what TypeScript feature we started using in our UI5 Web Components library. So let's take a look at the agenda. So what we are talking about is what are UI5 Web Components, how the whole story about TypeScript support and what advantages did we take from it. We will see how the component development is changed after the TypeScript enablement, and what enhancements we did in our tooling part. So let's start with a brief overview about what UI5 Web Components are. UI5 Web Components is a library that provides a wide range of UI5 elements. These elements are based on a web standard about Shadow DOM and custom elements, which means that they are easy to consume and they don't rely on specific framework in which they might be used. So, as I said, that they're easy to be consumed, we can see now a little example how to use them and what we get from them. So from the left side, we have native HTML elements for displaying a simple button with input field and also a little and some list items. From the right side, we have UI5 Web Components with the same with the same structure. So as we can see, following that web standards, by implementing them, the UI5 Web Components comes with built-in styles and vision and some basic functionality, like when we press the button, some hover effect or some action might be taken. Okay, so all these components are implemented with performance in mind, which will means that they will not affect your application size or your performance. Also, they're modular, which will means that you can use only what you need from the library. For example, if you want to use a button, you can just simply install the UI5 Web Components package and just to import the button, and then you can start to use that custom HTML element UI5 button. Also, our UI5 Web Components elements are enterprise ready and they're future rich. Also, all components are implemented by Fiori, SAP Fiori design language. By future rich, I mean that every component comes with built-in theming, internationalization, keyboard handling, and more things out of the box by just simply using the custom elements. Okay, so how everything started? We started to receive many requests from our community and our stakeholders to provide somehow TypeScript type definitions for our components and our base APIs. For example, when we want to change the theme or something else. So in response of that requests, we started to investigate how we can proceed. So we faced two options, and the first one was to generate TypeScript definitions over our components and to continue to use JavaScript as programming language. And the second option was to rewrite out our code base fully to TypeScript. So we decided to rewrite our code base to TypeScript, and we didn't only improve our code and our code quality, but also we provide the people what they want. By migrating to TypeScript, we improved our code quality, as I said, and yeah, maybe that. So let's take a look what advantages TypeScript gives us. So how to say, TypeScript support doesn't only improve the component developers' experience, but also affect the application developers, because providing these TypeScript definitions, their application developers code base started to give them suggestions, also auto-completion, and also started to show alerts when something is not used as expected. The same applies also to component developers, because we found a lot of unexpected mistakes in our code. So let's see what I'm talking about. Here I have a little snippets that I prepared for the demo, and the first one is that I'm going to show is some framework API from our base package. So we are going to use that setTheme method imported from theme module from the base package, and let's see what TypeScript provides to us. So starting to write the method that I want to use, the TypeScript provides that suggestions about how many arguments the method accepts, also what kind of the arguments, also with a quick description about it. So we see that the setTheme method accepts a string that represents the theme that I want to set to my application, and I'm going to use, for example, subhorizon. But if I try to use a different value with a different type, like just the true keyword, the TypeScript will alert me that the argument is not assignable to the current argument type. So as we can see, it works and easy to prevent unexpected behaviors from the usage of the APIs. So let's return that string here. Okay. Also, not only the base APIs, as I said, we provide type definitions for our components. For example, in the HTML page, I have one UI5 button, which I want to access in our JavaScript file. I'm accessing the button with that query selector method, and the query selector method is a generic one, which means that I can pass a type to that generic, and then my variable and the my variable will have the type of the generics that I provided. For example, that button will have button as a type, that button type that I imported from our type definitions. So how this helps us? For example, we can see some of the properties that our button has. Here, maybe it's not the best place, but I will just try to change the design property. As we can see, here is a design which is suggested that it's property. And when I pick that property, the TypeScript out of the box will start showing me the possible values that I can assign to that property of the button. So let's pick from maybe not the positive. Yeah, so we can see that it's changed. Also, again, if we try to assign something that's not part of these possible values, for example, let's say my button design, the TypeScript again will show that show a word that shows something is not used as expected, and it will say that my button design is not assignable to the possible types. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. So how the component development change? Previously, we had to describe the metadata of the component in a separate object that is shared between every instance of a specific class. So what I mean that we have to describe the metadata of the component in that object, it means that we had to describe the event that our component provides to the end users. Also, what is the tag name of the component, what properties that change the behavior of components it have, also the slots and etc. With the TypeScript support, we started to use TypeScript decorators. And TypeScript decorators are a feature of TypeScript that allows you to modify a class or a class member behind this annotation. For example, add custom element or add property. So we provide base the TypeScript decorators for the most seen use cases that we have. For example, previously Previously, the tag was described directly with the property inside metadata object. Now we pass it to just as a first argument of the decorator, and behind the wall it assigns everything where it has to be assigned. Also, we introduced the property decorator, which is used to modify the properties. And let's see from the left side how previously a property was defined. In the properties property of the metadata object, we assigned a new object with all properties. If we take a look at that href property, previously we had to specify its type and, for example, default value of the property or anything else. So this object starts to look quite big. So with TypeScript, you have just to pass two arguments to the property decorator, and all these things from the left side becomes in a single line the property decoration. Also, previously we had to specify the accessor name as a key of the in the properties object. Now we directly assign it as a class member inside the class that we declare, where we declare it. And let's see how previously the slots were described. Same as the properties, we have the slots object that describes every slot inside our component. And previously the slot, the name of the slot wasn't the accessor of the slot. So this means that the default slot, to access the things that are provided inside the slots, we had to specify their accessor name. For example, as declared in the left side, to iterate over the slot elements, we had to use these dot items. And from the TypeScript perspective, we can now directly assign that accessor as a class member. So anything that comes to the slot can be accessed with that items that we have declared. So let's take a look how a component looks like. Hope you see my ID. Okay, so this is a newly created package with a single component that I prepared for the presentation. And let me just run it. This is how it looks like. This is a simple button that has a counter property which increases when the button is clicked, and also have icon slot that allows us to assign icons to our component. So as we can see, we can just click on the button and everything is working. So this is our template file. What means templates? Every web component has a shadow root that follows a specific template so to render the web component content. So as we can see here, we have a button, and everything for the shadow root is taken from that HBS file, from our template file. So yeah, previously, as I said, here we can see how the metadata object is used. As we mentioned, in the metadata object, we had to specify all the properties, slots, tag, also different configuration about the components, and etc. So let's start. Let's see how the component will look like in a TypeScript. So I'm going to create a new element by using create UI5 element script. This script will prepare all the needed files to start the component development, a newly created web component. So, as you can see, the TypeScript file is created with some, how to say, mock data. Also the template and the CSS files that allows you to modify the component styles. But first of all, inside our test page, we are using that bundle USM that imports our components to the web page. And as a newly created component, we have to import the component so we can visualize it inside the browser. And let me just start the server. So as you can see, here we have hello world text that comes from our component templates. So let's just simply modify it to see. Yeah, it's changed. So before continuing by to see how our component will look like inside in TypeScript, I will do a quick cleanup of the things that I don't need for the demo purpose. So the custom element manifest decorator doesn't help us only to specify what is our component tag name, but it also removes all the static required static methods that our library requires. For example, in order to make the component to use a specific template, we have that template function, which we provide that template to the component. And also we have some static methods to describe our component styles, also the dependencies that are used in the component, and etc. So with the custom element decorator, we can simply provide everything that our components need by just instead by providing only the tag name, to provide an object that has specific properties. Yeah, with that, the need to describe everything as a methods disappear. So let's see how we can make this JavaScript component inside TypeScript. So first of all, we have one property which is named counter. So I'm going to declare it counter, and since it has type integer, I will write type number here, because type integer doesn't exist in JavaScript, and we have our custom integer class, which is provided in decorator. For the JavaScript purpose, we just need to know that it's a number. From TypeScript perspective, we need to know that this property has only type number. Okay, so before continuing with describing the things inside the decorator, I need to import that integer class. Integer class is part of the UI5 Web Components base package. And it's, as I said, a custom type. So let's use it inside the decorator. The decorator accepts an object that how to say, that accepts few properties. First of them is the type of the component, and it accepts constructors to which to compare the value assigned to the property. For this demo, we set the type to integer, and there is another property of that object that allows us to declare the default value of the property. Okay, so now we declared a counter property also in our TypeScript component. So let's see how this will be visualized in the web page. Same as the JavaScript, we just have to use double curly braces and to point the property. And our default value is shown. So I will change that div button to div element to button, so we can use some events. Also, we have to use add symbol by following by event name, and then in curly braces we need to we can specify a function that may be executed when this button is clicked. So basically this is attaching a click handler. So let's create an increase handler. Increase counter function, and let's declare it. So now by clicking the button, this property value will be changed by increasing it by 1. As we can see, now it's changed. Okay, so let me take just that text here. And yeah, this button is clicked 5, 4, 6 times. Okay, so the other thing that our component has in a JavaScript, it has a SWOT. And let's see what it has. It has a default SWOT that has successor icons as successor name. So now we can directly declare that accessor as a class member of our component. So instead of adding a property name and other things to the decorator. So since we have icons, we are going to use array as a type, and we will pass, since array is a generic type, we can pass the type that the array is going to use. So I write here icon, but I also need to import it. since I want to use it, I'm going to import that icon component from UI5 Web Components package. Okay. There's also one specific thing when we are using components in our code, in our template, that we need to describe them as a dependencies. So describing it as a dependency, it will load first icon, then we will load our component. Okay, so as we can see, importing the icon here not only imported the class icon, but also imported its type. And now if we hover that icon successor, we will see that it's array of icons. So let's use now the SWOT decorator. As we said, we have to provide so we can simply say that it's we can, by default, the type is, we are using the default type, so we can leave the decorator empty. So we are saying that this icon this icon's member is a SWOT for our class. So let's see how to visualize that. There is an HTML SWOT element that SWOTs everything provided inside the white DOM of our component. White DOM is everything that is inside our component. Like you can see here, the white DOM is everything between 27 and 29 line. So here we have 3 icons that have home. Just a second. Yeah. Just that icon is not loaded. So to show an icon, we also have to import the icon that we want to use. There is a separate package that contains all the icons. For example, home points to home icon, and when it's loaded, the icon is visualized. Okay, so while we are declaring that SWOT, we are declaring to show how the suggestion helps us to improve our component development. So let's import another icon, for example, and use one of our Lifecycle methods before rendering. This method is called before rendering of the component starts. I just delete that one by mistake. Okay, so now we can see that we can access our icons class member, which is an array of icons. So we know that we can call for each method. Now that for each method knows that this icon has icon as a type. So trying to change something of icon, for example, icon has name property, we can see that icon name accepts strings and that it sets the icon that we want to show. So we are going to set for every icon that accept icon that we loaded earlier. So we just pass the icon name to Strange. You're not working. So, yeah, for some reason I broke it now, but this is the idea that directly accessing this icon sort, now we can use the SWOT and its type when manipulating the sorted items. Okay. So this is how our component looks like in TypeScript. And this is how our component looks like in a JavaScript. With the TypeScript, we don't only save. TypeScript doesn't only prevent the bugs that might appear by type checking and by providing suggestion without complete and everything else, but it also reduces the code that we have to write. As we can see, here we have maybe 20 lines. Here we have more than 40. Okay, so UI5 Web Components provide also a tooling part, and especially that UI5 Web Components package, which allows you to create a new fully configured web components package, so you can start directly creating your own components. So when the script is executed inside the console, the script will ask you about what is what package name you want. Also, you can specify the project type that you want to use. The project type might be JavaScript, so you can continue to develop components in the old way, but it also provides an option to choose TypeScript and start to develop in our modernized dev experience. And you can also specify the name for your first component. And sorry. For your first component, and then a fully configured, as I said, fully configured package will be created. Okay, and just to go back for a second, I forgot to add slide, but the another script tool part is that create UI5 element script, which is part of every UI5 Web Components package, and it creates a skeleton for a new component where you can do a quick cleanup, as we did, by just removing everything that we don't need, and to start your dev experience, to start your development. Also, that script doesn't ask you to choose what type of project, what type of component you want to have, if you want to have JavaScript component or TypeScript component, but it directly takes your configuration of your current package, and based on that, it generates a component in the specific type. So, thank you for your attention, and I think that we have some time for questions.
Great, that was fantastic, super educational. Thank you, Naiden. In fact, we have some questions in the chat. Thank you to Luis, for example, for being very active in the chat, which is fantastic. We love to see that. So Luis asked 2 or 3 questions. I'll read them. Oops, I'll read them out. Mm-hmm. So I'll go in reverse order as well. So the latest question first. So Luis said, during the session, I realized that it's very important to have great knowledge of the package or the libraries that you need to import during development. Do you have any advice about knowing more about that?
Sorry, I think that I didn't get the question.
Okay, so I'll try and summarize. Basically, how do you know which packages you need to import for the stuff that you're doing?
Basically, we have a playground where our documentation is described. Also, component development process is described. I forgot to add it inside the slide, but maybe I will. Just a second.
Sure. We've got plenty of time, so there's no rush.
Mm-hmm.
Show it somewhere, that'd be great.
But do you still see my screen?
Yeah, we can still see a screen. We're looking at the GitHub URL in your browser.
Sorry?
We're looking at we can see GitHub in your browser, yeah.
We have a documentation about everything that a component developer, also application developer, need to know about our library. This documentation you can visit by just clicking the link from the right side of our GitHub repository. Here, as you can see, SAP GitHub UI5 Web Components. Here we have some guidelines about how the things inside our library works. For example, how to define RTL right or left, or how to declare a compat cozy mode, which means that on specific device you can change the size of the specific components. Also, how the accessibility works, what are the guidance of providing accessibility, and etc. Also, there is development section where you can check how to create a your own UI5 Web Component package. Also, how to develop Web Components package. So basically, if I correctly understand your question, yes, here is described the whole process, how to do your components. And
great stuff. Great answer. Thanks, Naden. Yeah. So actually, talking of, and by the way, I've shared with the viewers the GitHub repo, the link just now, SAP UI5 Web Components. So talking of GitHub, Luis also asked about the code that you showed, the demo code. Do you have that anywhere available online for the viewers to have a look at and play with and revisit once they've viewed the session?
No, because it's simply a new package generated by the script that I showed earlier. I just create two packages they can create on their own. And for the first one, I just choose JavaScript as a project type, and for the second one, I choose
TypeScript.
The TypeScript, yes.
Great,
and
yeah.
Based on that documentation, I just declared a SWOT and a property.
Sounds great. Yeah, I think that's that would be what my preference would be for playing around with the code that you showed, as in generating myself. Thank you very much. Good morning, Visas, by the way. Good morning to Visas and Petya. So another question from Luis, which was early on, and I think it might have crossed over with, with the delay and what you were showing. So Luis says, besides coming from feedback from the developer community, what stands out as the primary advantage of TypeScript support in UI5 Web Components? Now you've talked a lot about loads of different advantages. You've showed us lots of advantages, but for you, Naden, what is your number one favorite advantage of using TypeScript?
That by adding support to TypeScript was the improving of the quality of the product, because it, as I mentioned, it helps to prevent a lot of bugs, also to catch bugs that wasn't catch earlier. So yeah, for me, that the code quality improved a lot when the TypeScript was added. Is maybe the best one.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think I have to agree with that as well. Absolutely. So lots of folks are saying thank you, Naiden, including Petya and Louise, and and it's a massive thanks from me as well. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say before we close out, Naiden?
No, just to ask the attendance to the people that if they have need of some kind of help, they can reach us by our GitHub by creating an issue or something else, and to feel free to ask us if they want to try something. Fantastic.
That's a great way to end. So thank you everybody for joining, and especially for interacting. It's been great. It's always great to see. Thank you so much, Naiden, for this great live presentation. I've learned a huge amount in this session, so thank you. And so before we close out, I want to quickly remind you, we've got 2 more front-end Devtoberfest sessions today, one in about 2 hours from now, sort of lunchtime UK time, and one later on today. The Devtoberfest events calendar, let me just share that again with you so you can go and check the sessions. There's also gaming night. There are 2 gaming night slots, one going on right now, in fact, just started about 10 minutes ago, and one later for people in later time zones. So thanks again, Naiden. Thanks everybody for joining, and happy Devtoberfest.
Bye.
Oh, yes, by the way, Louise said, is a validation tutorial? Yes, the validation tutorial, I'll be updating that with a question in there. So you've got to go to the validation tutorial, go and find it on developers.sap.com. And there's a link, I think, in the session information on the community platform as well. So yeah, that will be updated in the next hour. I'll do that. Okay, bye, folks.
Yeah.